What's going on, guys? It's Red Bull Tanker, and welcome back to Axis and Allies 1940, turn 2 for the Allies. Alright, going right into it. Combat. Starting off, the Brits decide to run a raid on northern Italy with the infantry and tank that they had in Gibraltar. So they went up there, captured northern Italy, and knocked it down to a minor. Continuing in the Mediterranean theater, the British infantry, 2 Anzacs, and then 2 infantry from Persia on a transport supported by the battleship attacked Ethiopia. The battleship got there were 2 Italians and an Italian artillery. The offshore bombardment got 1 of the Italian infantry. And then in the ensuing combat, the Allies were able to destroy the infantry and artillery. However, the 2 Anzac infantry were lost. Next, these 2 infantry and this transport came from South Africa. This cruiser came from India to support the attack on Italian Somaliland. There was 1 Italian infantry defending. The offshore bombardment got him, and unfortunately for Airsoft Commando, his defense role missed. Next, let's see here. Oh, alright. And then finally up here in Russia, the Russians have launched their first counterattack against Operation Barbarossa. These 6 Soviet infantry and artillery went into Bessarabia against a lone German infantry division and 2 armor. The Soviets were supported by their air forces from Bryansk, and the Soviets were able to destroy their enemy at no loss to themselves. So a very successful turn for combat for all the Allied forces. Non-combats. Russia Russia continues to bring in all their units here in Bryansk with their major army force that they have there. Rats, I didn't move them. I forgot. Dagnabbit. I meant to move the Siberian forces over 1 more position. However, I failed in that, so that sucks. Let's see here. Next, for the United States, the only thing the U.S. really did was they brought more reinforcements down here to Hawaii. And as a side note, a lot of you guys know that when I usually play these games, I always like to have fun with the Americans, and I have division markers for all the infantry and mechanized infantry. I'll throw a link out to Historical Board Gaming because they have some of the best division markers. Though I will say that they are missing quite a bit, so I took it upon myself to just kind of custom make my own using paper and laminates. And so, like right here in Hawaii, I have one of my custom markers. I'll just get in there real quick. So as you can see, that is marked as the Hawaiian Division. So prior to World War II, in the Hawaiian Islands, there was a single infantry division made up of, based around the old World War I model of, I believe it was 4 infantry regiments to the division. And they were all flagged under what was called the Hawaiian Division. It did not actually have a numbered division. However, when World War II started and the reorganization of the Army happened, the Hawaiian Division was actually broken up, and with some of my markers, what I ended up doing was I did a front back. So I've made my own custom 24th Infantry Division marker. I also have a custom 25th Infantry Division marker as well. But so as we get going in the game, eventually the Hawaiian Division will become the 24th. And maybe eventually the 25th Division will end up in the game as well. Another custom marker you can see over real quick. You can see over here in the Philippines. This is for the Philippine Division. Zoom in again on that. So, whoops. I don't know what's going on with my camera. So then there's a marker for the Philippine Division. So that was all the American non-combats. Just mainly movement in the Pacific. In China, China just took 1 infantry from Sichuan and moved it up to Shenxi. Britain. So for Britain, they moved some of their forces. They moved some of their fleet forces from Sea Zone 109 down into the Med. They brought their destroyer from off of Gibraltar here to Malta. Make the Italians pay if they want to try and grab and, well, basically block the Italians from grabbing any of these units if they want to try and do a landing in Egypt. They consolidated most of their fleet here off of Egypt. They brought 2 fighters and a bomber that supported the transport here to Egypt. The other 2 British fighters who were supporting here went back to Malta. They are joined by that French. The UK walked into East Persia. Oh, I forgot that about the Russians. The Russians on their non-combat also went into Northwest Persia. The Brits went into Persia. FEC, they moved more forces here into Burma. They put another fighter. Brought the infantry and tank that they bought. They brought their 3 anti-aircraft guns. That's about it for the Brits and what they did. Anzacs, on their non-combat. From what I read, the Anzacs can do this. The Anzacs came over and grabbed Sumatra and Java to add to their IPC. And then France. Basically, all France did, like I said, they moved ships here. They moved their fighter to Malta. They consolidated in Tunisia, moving this infantry into Central Africa, and moving this infantry from Syria to Jordan. Okay, well, let's go over the purchases now. Got quite a bit to do. So Russia had 37 to spend. So they bought 3 infantry in the Ukraine. They also brought an infantry from Rostov into Ukraine on their non-combat. So they bought 3 infantry there. They bought an infantry. They pulled their forces out of Vyborg, went into Leningrad as well. They also bought an infantry and a tank. And then here at home in Moscow, they bought an infantry, a mech, and 2 tank. And then they collected 35 IPC plus 5 for bonus. So the Russians will have 40 for next turn. The United States. All right, so the United States this turn in the east bought a aircraft carrier, another fighter, and both fighters are now on the aircraft carrier, which, as many of you know, I also do name my ships. So the USS Yorktown, I don't know if you can see. Yep, the USS Yorktown is here in the Atlantic with its 2 fighters, and then they also bought a transport for the east. Coming over to the west, the U.S. mainly focused on naval this turn. They bought 2 destroyers and a transport, and at the end of the turn, they collected 52 IPC. They also saved. What did they save? The U.S. ended up saving. They had saved 2 IPC, so they will have 54 to spend next turn. China had 10 IPC to spend. They spent all of it on 3 infantry here for Sichuan. So they saved 1, and then at the end of the turn, they collected 7, plus the 1, so they will have 8 for next turn. Okay, the British Empire. All right, so the Brits bought a miner for Persia, an air base for Egypt, and they bought an infantry and transport here for South Africa. And then at the end of the turn, Britain collected 35 plus 5 for bonuses, and they have 40 for next turn. Far East Command had 19 to spend. They bought, and I didn't put them down. Okay, so the FEC will have bought a cruiser and a tank for 19. For 18, they saved 1, and then at the end of the turn, they collected 17 plus the 1 they saved for 18 IPC. Anzacs. The Anzacs had 13 to spend. They decided to buy a transport and 2 infantry. placed them in Sydney, and then at the end of the turn, they collected 18 IPC altogether. And then finally, France. As always, France is not able to buy anything, so France is just sitting there being France. All right, well, I think that is it for the Allies for turn 2. I got to get those 2 British purchases down, and then we will see you guys next time for the Axis turn 3. So until then, guys, as always, take care.